Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I have a very precious thing to share with you. I have wanted this set for a long time. It's the Whisky Painter's travel palette, and it comes with Schminke Horadam watercolors in it. And I've been stocking this palette for so long. I've looked at it empty for so long. Even the empty palettes are like usually over $100. And then I saw an empty palette, and it wasn't Whisky Painter's brand, it was another brand. It was on Cheap Joe's, and it was like $65. I'm like, well, that's a pretty good deal. But then I saw that you could get this palette, the Whisky Painter's palette with 8 Horadam half pans in it for $83. And I think the regular price is like $150. I hemmed and hawed. I've been like looking at this palette for literally like 2 or 3 years. Maybe longer, I don't know. I know I've wanted the Whisky Painter's palette for longer than that, but the actual ones with the Schminke paints. And I thought, I decided last week that I would treat myself and I would order it. And I did. So I needed a couple tubes of, actually I could show you, I needed a couple tubes, 3 tubes of golden open acrylics, because I've been using the little but the starter set paints, and I've been mixing my own like burnt sienna. I've been mixing my yellow ochre, and I've been mixing those colors for more saturated, more expensive colors. So it's like I'm just gonna buy yellow ochre and burnt sienna and another tube of white, because it's gonna cost me more mixing it from those smaller tubes. So so I got those, and you know, I'm like, well, you know, when you figure what I would save with free shipping by ordering more, yeah, I totally justified it. So it's tiny. Look at this box. It's like 3 inches by 4 inches. That's the size of the package here. It's just got a little cardboard box. On the back it shows you the colors that are included. The writing's in German. Schminke is a German company. There is, oh no, that's French. Yeah, nope, that's Spanish. Is there English on this package at all? Finest artist watercolors and artist pigments in highest possible concentration. Each color has its own individually optimized formula. Pans poured 4 times in a liquid state. Fully reusable paint when dried on a palette. High control of paint flow. And I don't have any Horadam pans. I have a few small tubes of Horadam watercolors. So this is kind of exciting because I've never used them from the pans. I do have some Cadmium that are in half pans, and those are quite nice for a student grade, but I'm really excited to try these. So this is what the palette looks like. It's got those it's kind of got that foam style bijou box there. You got Schminke screen printed on gold. Got a little cap. This is really heavy actually for a small metal tin. It has more weight to it than like a 12 half pan like the Primo marketing tins. It feels heavier than that. There's a little flask here, so you can fill this up under the faucet, and it will hold probably enough water to put in there. You know what? We can fill it up. Let's do that. Let's see. Do I have a little thing here? Let's see. I got this. I saved the little flavor enhancer bottles so I can fill. I can use them to fill my water brushes, but I think I can fill. It would work good for filling this as well. So let's see how much water it takes. Not that I can really tell, but I can pour it into the cup and then we can kind of see. I don't think it's going to hold too much. It'd probably be like about as much as like a water brush would hold. Oops. There we go. We're to the top now. All right, so that's to the top. Let's see how much of this little pan it will fill. Now I think the Whisky Painters got their name because they were a bunch of artists, and they used to paint in like a bar, and they would use whiskey. That's the old wives' tale. I don't know if that's true or not, but okay, it will fill. This will fill that cup. That will fill that. Okay, that's good to know. I'm gonna put that lid back on there. Isn't it cute? Oh, I love it. Open it up, and we have a Schminke Horadam swatch card. I'll probably make my own because I'll probably put a row of pans in the center. I'll fill it from my Schminke tubes. I don't know if I probably wouldn't put that much out at once. That's really spilly. That's a lot of water there. I'm gonna wipe that up. And then this little cup would hook just sit on the side like that. So you kind of hold that in your hand. You've got two big mixing areas there. And yeah, you do your little paintings. You bring a little sketchbook with you, bring a little pocket brush probably. And let's take a look. This is even empty of water. That's kind of heavy. This feels really high quality. Feels nice and thick. It's got a nice enamel surface. So when you get a paint palette like this, they have these little rails. You pull these rails out. That's what holds the pans in there, and that will allow you to actually put another row. It should allow you to put another row in the center, but it might not if they're wrapped. Maybe that's the deal. I hope I can put another little row in there, but maybe I can't. I don't know. But I did prepare I didn't prepare anything. I grabbed myself a piece of watercolor paper. There was no preparation. I'm going to swatch these out, and we're going to see how they look. I hope this isn't boring, but what I like to do is put a strip of adhesive down, and then I like to put my stickers on there. So I'm not sure how I want to have these. I don't think I want them in this order. So let's see, let's put my blue together. For blues, I have Ultramarine and I have Prussian Blue. I like those colors. For yellows, I have Yellow Ochre and Lemon Yellow. For reds, I have Cadmium Red Light and Permanent Carmine. Oh, those are good colors. Then I've got a green. I've got, Permanent Olive. Permanent Green Olive. That sounds nice. And I have Sepia. They put Sepia in all their sets. I'm wondering if it might be like a German thing, but that's something I have noticed about them. I think what I'm going to do is maybe do my reds and then my yellows and my blues and the other ones. So I'll start off with Carmine. That's my cool red. Peel off the wrapper here. I'm going to trim the little barcode off. I have an eye appointment next week. I hope they can get me into some sort of situation where I can read the tiny print on these wrappers. And then I will put this in my palette in the same way. It's got a little foil wrapper. Oh, isn't it gorgeous? Look how shiny and pretty that is. Look at that. All right, so that's going to go. Those will go. I think I need to go this way, but it seems like they would go the other way too. All right, now we're going to do the Cadmium Red Light. Oh, look at that, so pretty. And I will trim this off. I don't know, do you guys care to see this? I guess you can fast forward. Go ahead and fast forward if this is boring your brains out, if you can't take it. If you're like, Lindsay, let's get the show on the road. Okay, then I'm going to do Yellow Ochre, because that's my warm yellow, and it would be closer to the warm orange. Of course, you could do, and I might, if I can add more pans in there, I might put this with my Sepia, like with earth colors, but for right now, I'm going to put it next to the red. Trim that off. I'm so excited to try these. It's a splurge. That's a splurge. $83 for 8 colors in a cute little palette on a travel palette. Even for me and my travel palette obsession, that's a splurge. But actually, I think it's a pretty good value when you figure that, I mean, I've seen the empty palettes for more than that, and the cheapest I've ever seen an empty palette was Cheap Joe's for $65, and I don't even think that was the brand, the actual Whiskey Painter's brand. Not that it matters if it's, oh, I've been sticking these on upside down. Not that it matters if it's, you know, if it's good quality. Good grief. And this will go in my swatch binder. And I'll show you the other Schminke colors I have in a second, because I have that page open in my binder, because I'm not sure what I want to add to it, if anything. Okay, so then after I do that, I take a Sharpie, and then I just draw a thick black line, and I let it dry fully, and that way I can know how transparent the colors are. They look like little candies, don't they? And then I can put this rail back in. Now, I guess, you know, if I needed to add some more colors, I could take the rails out and use a little bit of poster putty. We can see if it would be, if we could fit an extra pan in that way, because I know I always get questions like that, like could you check and see if we could fit an extra pan in this way, or could we do, you know, this or that. So it's kind of, I don't think I could quite fit another pan in there, but I might be able to do like a full pan or something. Let me just grab some pans out of my, oh, you know what though, I wonder, oh, look at that, guys, the portable painter pans. Those new divided portable painter pans would fit in there. That would work for some more colors if you wanted to. I'm seeing if I have any just regular single pans left and running low. Oh, that's a portable painter micro. That's a little bit, it's too big to fit in there. And I don't think I can fit pans down the center. Maybe like the Windsor and Newton pans, because those tend to be a little bit smaller, but I don't think I haven't. Maybe I do. Oh, wait a minute. I think I might right here. Is this a Windsor Newton pan? It's a Meaden pan. No, it's not going to fit. So yeah, I might not be able to put anything in the middle like that, so it's kind of a shame. It seemed like it would, like, that this could be used a little bit better, and then we could fit those. So I guess that would be maybe a bit of a negative, but I mean, this is a pretty well-rounded palette. I probably don't need all those colors. So now I'm going to go with my color that's closer to, actually I should do my green next, because green is closer to yellow. Do I want to do it on this side? Oh, so pretty. I could do it there and have it kind of like a color wheel. Why don't we do that? I need more tape. It doesn't really matter. You can set your palette up however you want. Just make sure that, you know, it makes sense to you. You'll get used to it however you end up putting it down. Then I'll do phthalo blue, Prussian blue, because that's closer to green. It's kind of a traditional palette, to be honest. I like it. I like that traditional palette. Oh, look at this one, looks a little funny. That one didn't get poured as evenly, but that's okay. It doesn't matter to me. Still gonna work. It's still gonna be, it's still gonna look used in about 5 minutes when I paint these out, so I'm not fussy about that. Now we'll do our Ultramarine Finest. I like their Ultramarine. I have, oh no, I don't. Yes, I do have one of their Ultramarines. Is this pure PB29 or is this a mix? Because I have an Ultramarine that's actually a mix of PB15 and PB29 from Schminke, and I don't really care for that one as much. I have a Cobalt Blue Deep, which is super granulating and gorgeous. And do you think I can read the label here? PB29. Okay, cool. This is different than the one I have, and I am glad about it. And then what I would do is I think it's a little more economical to buy tubes and refill them from tubes versus buying half pans to refill. So that's what I would do. And, you know, if I don't really see a huge improvement over this Ultramarine Blue to one I already have in my stash, I'll just refill it with what I have. You know, once I do the review, it is nice to keep the same, like, I don't know, it is kind of nice to keep a palette all, like, pure to a certain brand, but it's really not that practical or even that beneficial unless you're reviewing products like I do and you want to compare, you know, apples to apples. I mean, I've got a palette, my Pike palette has like so many different brands mixed and mingled. I even have different, like a couple colors in some of the bigger wells just because I have so much extra room. All right, let's swatch these out and see what we got. I don't think I want to use this tiny little thing of water for swatching because it's, I want to really be able to rinse my brush clean, so I'll have to play with this, like go paint on my balcony and see how I like it. You know, how I like working with that tiny palette. But I have the Winsor Newton Bijou box. I've had that for like probably 25 years, and I really like that. And you wouldn't think you'd have much room, but it's great. I like it because it's got a really good, useful assortment of colors, and yeah, I have no problem with that at all. So let's see. Oops, we got to turn it around this way so I have it the same orientation. All right, so, oh, I forgot to put that little rail in. There we go. Ooh, look how nicely they re-wet. Oh, that's lovely. Isn't that pretty? It almost looks like it has granulation, although Carmine really wouldn't have granulation. Oops, I need to press my paint puck down in there. I emptied out my jars. I just got back from vacation. I emptied out, I forgot I cleaned my studio. I cleaned it, wiped down the tables, everything. I was like and I had forgotten I did, so it was so nice to come back and see that, oh, the place is clean. Oh, that's pretty. Cadmium red. I love cadmium red. It's such a nice strong color. I know a lot of people are like nervous about using cadmiums, but I like them. I think there's such a small amount that you're actually using. It's, you know, it doesn't take a lot to get a lot of color. Oh, that's pretty. Yellow ochre. I'm happy with the colors. Very nice. Let's see, I'm cleaning in this one. And I'm gonna lemon. I wonder if this is PY3. I'm gonna have to look at that. Let me see. I mean, no, it's interesting. This the swatch card gives you room for 12 colors, so it must be intending you to put some down the center row. Oh gosh. PY3. Yep, I was right. Then we've got Sepia, which is not my favorite brown. It's actually, that's kind of a nice rich brown. I always find Sepia to be a little like cold and dull, but I kind of like the way it looks here. I also like a limited palette, so I don't know if I will add more to this. I have a small tin that I have my Academy paints in, and I took the tray insert out, just put poster putty in there. So I do, so I have my Academy and my Horadam tubes in there together. And that's fine. They're not ones I reach for that often, though, because I think it's just because I got a kind of a random assortment, and they're not the colors I would have chosen. Oh, I like that. Now their ultramarine it granulates, but it's not like a super granulating, but I think those two colors together would have a lovely texture. Let's see what the sepia and the ultramarine look like together if we mix them. Let's just do a little. Let's let that dry and see if we get some good granulation. I'm gonna let them bleed into each other a little bit just so I can know that they're mixed and that I didn't use another color there. I think that might actually be a really pretty texture. Alright, next up we have our Prussian Blue, which is a color I like and I don't use very often. That was one I always used to use. I actually think Phthalo Blue I think mixes better because it is more transparent and stronger and just cleaner. But Prussian Blue has a beautiful earthiness to it. This looks a little brighter than other Prussians. I wonder if it may be a synthetic to be a little bit more, have a little more longevity. I'm going to look at it says PB27, I think. Good Lord. Yes, PB27, that's a traditional Prussian Blue. Oh, I love how they bleed together. That's really pretty. This olive is new to me. Let's have a look at that. That's nice. It kind of though, it doesn't look like an olive to me. It looks more like a hooker's green. Bring it down a little bit of water. These radiate out really well. Very easy to control. Now actually, if these are liquid poured pans, it doesn't matter if you buy two. The tube should act just the same. All right, so let's do a couple of color wheels. I actually might have one already stamped out. I was going to just do it on the bottom of the paper, but I kind of ran out of some space. I don't know if I have one already stamped out. I always keep these random papers. You know what? I'm just going to use them. I've got this little scrap I've been using for doing little things like that, so let's do that. We can do a cool and a warm. So let's do our cool colors. We'll start off with Carmine. Bring it around a little bit. Oh shoot, I should have put some of that in the middle. Then we're going to go with, we're doing cool, so we're going to go with lemon. And we'll just kind of mix that in together. Ooh, that makes a really nice orange. I don't know if that shows, does that show up on camera? I'll put that color in the middle there. We can mix some blue into that to make the gray. Look at that. I mean, it's making a really nice orange. I like that Carmine. We'll do a glaze on top to see how it layers in a minute. Then we'll do our cool blue, which is Prussian. Let's bring that out a little bit so that, look at that pretty green. Clean the brush off, and then we'll mix it into the red. Oh, it makes a nice purple. Hey, that's a really great triad. Just a little bit of blue on some there. And it makes a nice gray to brown in the center. All right, cool triad looks good. Let's do a warm triad. So we will, I'll grab the yellow ochre for my yellow. Then I will grab the cadmium red. I'm going to need to add a little bit more yellow to that. Makes kind of like a peach color. And then we're going to add Ultramarine Blue, which will make some kind of dull mixes. Makes this kind of like a dull olive. And make this kind of a gray eggplanty color. Get a little more red in there. You get an earthy triad and we get a bright triad. Those colors, the cool primaries are gorgeous. The cool primaries really have a lot of potential there. That's cool. I like that. I'm happy with that. Oh boy, I am very happy with this. What I'm going to do is dry this, and when we come back we'll do some glazes on there, and we'll see how they glaze up. This is almost dry. Very subtle texture. These are not the most granulating, like that, that ultramarine is not granulating a ton. Schminke does have the super granulating colors, which a friend of mine shared hers, Rosie shared hers with me, so I have pans of those. And those really granulate. I think maybe the regular colors have more of a subtle granulation or no granulation. This is what I have for tube Schminke colors right here. Would I add maybe Indian yellow would be one that I would add to this, just to have a warm yellow. Maybe burnt sienna, just because I like burnt sienna. Although, or maybe burnt umber. Burnt sienna is weird because I use PR101 and PBK9. But I don't know, I do have those colors if I want to add into this palette. I could hunt down some smaller pans that would fit better, but yeah, I have that option if I want to do that. But for right now, I am going to let that dry, and then we will do some glazing. So I did find in a smaller pan, like the Winsor Newton or original portable painter size, and they will fit in the middle. So that's kind of cool. And because the rails go on the side, the wider sides, it doesn't take up any of the space in the middle. You just have the overhang that keeps the middle pan from falling out. So So I think that's pretty cool. So I just wanted to share that if you were looking at this palette but you didn't want the wasted space in the center. You can definitely fit 4 colors, and that's why they have this swatch card. And the swatch card is empty, meaning you just can write the color number or the color name in there, and if you want to, or you can just use a color code. So what I've got here is a flat brush. I like to do my glazing with a flat brush, and I am just going to just pick up some color. Now they kind of feel sticky, so I do want to mention that. When I was on vacation last week, I was at the beach and I had my portable painter palette, and I had a variety of different colors, different brands in there, and they were very sticky. They stay like this, the humidity in the air, and I did have some M-gram, but I had other brands too. They all got pretty like sticky. So the yellow ochre and the cadmium red are definitely rather opaque in a full strength mass tone glaze. That's not unusual. That's just those pigments. That's a property of those pigments. And plus also when things dry a bit, they often will be a little more transparent. So keep that in mind. Ultramarine blue is a color I use the most. So, I mean, I know I'll have to refill this at one point, but I might actually go with an ultramarine that granulates a little bit more, like Daniel Smith. I do like their ultramarine. I like Da Vinci's ultramarine too. That's a real steal of a deal. If you're looking for, especially if you're like a teacher and you're looking for large amounts of paint for class, like to fill up palettes to hand out to your students, I really recommend the Da Vinci 37 ml tubes. Alright, they glaze pretty well. I didn't notice other colors lifting up, but we could do a little bit of a lift test on the other corner to see how easily it would be to lift up some of those pigments. So what I just have a synthetic flat brush, so it's a golden Taklon. It's a little bit stiff. I'm going to try not to put my hands in the glaze. And this is Hahnemühle Cezanne 100% cotton paper. Oh, the Carmine lifted up really well. Cadmium should lift up pretty well, I think. And this is handy if like you want to put highlights on something or you want to lift up a mistake. Generally, the more transparent a color is, the harder it is to lift. That's why I like ultramarine and your browns and colors like that granulate, lift up easily, they sit on top of the paper, they don't seep in and stain. And colors like your quinacridones and your phthalos, stuff like that, they're very fine particles, they're more transparent, they seep into the paper, and they tend to stain and are difficult to lift up. That's why it's fun to do skies with granulating colors. Because then if you want to blot out clouds where they're still wet, it comes up really easily. Just like using a cerulean or an ultramarine blue, and your skies are pretty easy to control. A little bit of staining on the Prussian, that's not unusual. A little bit of staining, actually a little bit of staining on the cadmium, I'm kind of surprised, but it could just be the mill size of the milling size of the particles. Oh, that all lifted up really well. Alright, so that is what we have for our colors. I had a little magnifier, but I don't know what I did with it. I think I can probably read these pigment codes. So for olive, we have PO43 and PG7. I think, maybe it's PO52, oh my goodness. PO62, I don't know. PO62 and PG7. Then we got PB29, 27, PB29. Oh gosh, that's 3 pigments. PB15, PB7, and PBK9 for Sepia. So that's a 3-color mix. That's probably why it seems like I always think Sepia is kind of a dull looking, because it's got so many pigments in it, including a black, which can make things look a little a little murky. PY3 for our lemon yellow, PY42 for our yellow ochre, PR108 for our cadmium red, and PV19 for our carmine. I think this is probably, these colors are probably going to have a lot of glazing ability, so you can keep adding and adding and adding, which is kind of nice if you're plein air painting. You don't have to worry about overworking. That's kind of like why I always liked my Sennelier paints for plein air painting, because I found that I didn't overwork anything because they were so good for glazing. The colors, with the exception of the yellow ochre and the cadmium red, are very transparent. And I'm happy with this. I think these are going to be really nice. So what I'll do is I will do some paintings with these over the next week or two, and I'll come back. We'll just be like a few seconds for you, and I will give you my final thoughts on this palette, and yeah, and then you can decide whether it's something you might want, or it's always just fun to know about new supplies. So even if you have no intention of buying them, I still think it's fun to, I like watching other reviews, even on things I don't intend to buy, because it's interesting to know about these products and to see what is out there and live vicariously, I guess. I think that's fun. Anyway, so when we come back, I will have some paintings done with these, and I'll have some more information for you. So we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, I do have some artwork to share with you with this paint set. I also did a mixing chart. If I don't have too many colors, I think it's nice to do a mixing chart to kind of see the variety that you can get. And there's only 8 colors in this set, so I thought I would do a mixing chart. The colors mixed very cleanly, although I will say they're not gonna like knock your socks off with color payout. I used a synthetic brush, a Roya Mac Revolution brush, which is, it's softer than like a typical synthetic, but it's not as, like as a golden taklon, but it's not quite as soft and absorbent as like a Neptune or a Mimic. So I don't think I put in too much water, but on this half, this triangle, I just made sure that actually that the top, the color I listed on the top was a more dominant color. So these were the mixes with yellow, lemon yellow, with lemon being the more dominant color. And by the way, I also did a glaze over each of the mass tone colors, over each of the pure colors with its own color, just so you can kind of see how like one layer really builds up the color, because I think these are kind of like Sennelier in the fact that it really benefits from glazing. So these are our yellow ochre mixes, with yellow ochre being the dominant color. These are the cad red mixes, with cad red being the dominant color. These are the carmine mixes, with carmine being the dominant color. These are our olive mixes, and they're olive, it's olive green dark, which looks a lot like a hooker's green to me. These are the olive mixes. These are the Prussian Blue mixes. These are the Ultramarine mixes. The lemon yellow is quite weak, but if you really give it a lot of lemon yellow, you can see you do get some rich colors. And these are the Sepia mixes. And if I just looked at this chart, honestly, I would not be impressed. And I would, if I just looked at this chart, and if I just looked at this swatch sheet, I would be like, you know, I wouldn't be very impressed. But the proof is in the pudding. The proof is working with them. How were they to work with? How was it to use this little palette? And I have to say that I think this was probably the best brand of paint to go in this Whiskey Painter's palette, because when you fill, like, I recommend, as I was using this, the first time I used it, I filled it right up. And I couldn't put it on the end of my palette because it would just spill. And also when I go to clean my brush off, I would just slosh the water out. So I realized that filling it halfway was the best way to go. And surprisingly, I was able to clean out all the paint on my brush really easily. I was using these inexpensive travel brushes from Amazon, the Fumu brand. Like, just keep in mind, these have like a 6/8 and a 12, but like the 12 is more like an 8. So they're much smaller than you expect them to be. I used the number 12 for the most part. And also the color didn't bead up on the palette, so that was nice. But because it's like it doesn't release too much paint, even though I am starting to get little dents on there, my water, when I did the chart, I actually used a couple jars of water, and the dirty water did not get like opaque and sludgy looking. So that's kind of a good sign. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of fillers. It doesn't seem like these are super, super strong colors, but you have just like an ounce of water in here, if that, and I was able to clean my brush off as I was working. And I'll show you the artwork I did with the palette and using that, that water container. I just did a couple here in this sketchbook, nothing, you know, and none of these pictures are all that like impressive, but you know, I just did we have a spider plant. It's just been sitting on the balcony, so I did one of the little spiders off of it. Then I was painting this, I sneezed, and I dropped my brush over there. And then I did these carnations. I mean, not super vibrant, but I was able to layer up, and I could layer up more and build up the color intensity. So that is, the nice thing about this was I did those both in that one dirty thing of water. I didn't have to rinse it out to do those two paintings. I didn't have to dump it and reload it, which I thought was pretty good. So I think the paint is well matched for the palette. And then I took this in my pocket with these brushes and this sketchbook when I walked the dog this morning. And I did this quick little sketch of daisies. It was really easy to control and get really light colors with that palette. And then my dog actually found a ball and she brought me a baseball, and I did that. And it was easy to layer up, and I didn't feel like I overworked anything. Like I said, these are pretty quick paintings. I just want to see what it was like to paint with these. And generally with a palette like this, I'm not going to be spending a ton of time because I've only got so much water. I've only got so much mixing space. I found myself working directly from the pans a lot because I didn't have a lot of space to mix. When I was doing the flowers, I actually used a space in here to mix. So that would probably be one of the negatives, is that you don't have a lot of mixing space. I have a Winsor & Newton Bijou box that actually, it's about this size. I could show it to you. Let me go grab it. So this is the Winsor & Newton Bijou box, and I love this palette. This was my first introduction to Winsor & Newton artist grade watercolors, and I mean, as you can see, they've been refilled several times. I really love this little palette. The fact that there's 4 little divots instead of 2 is a game changer, honestly. So I would highly recommend, I mean, if I could have my ideal palette, I'd be like, can you make that have 4 little wells? I mean, there's probably a reason it's like this. Maybe people want bigger washes for skies or whatnot, but with a tiny little reservoir of water, I'm not going to be mixing up super big washes personally, so having a palette like that. But it's about the same, I mean, it's about, oops, let's take that off there. It's about the same size. Honestly, it is the same size. It's just the thickness. So that's where you get the extra water capacity there. Can you, let's put this one here so you can see. This is the Bijou box from Winsor & Newton, super slim, and this is the Whiskey Painters because it's got that flask there. It's just got that little bit of extra girth. But I mean, it feels really well made. Like I feel the weight of that, the weight of this. I mean, it's a lot heavier. I like it. I'm glad I bought it, but I also might be a little bit more biased to like this because I've wanted it for so long. I'm going to add some more colors to it because having such a small amount of mixing space, I want to be able to just go right into a color and not have to mix it out with water, not have to mix out that color. So what I'm going to do, I grabbed my swatches from my swatches of the Schminke, and I'm going to keep Schminke in here because I don't know, I'm funny like that. I guess I like to keep a brand together like that in a little palette if I can. So what I'm going to do, and we'll get to the cons because there are some cons. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add Indian yellow, warm yellow. I'll probably add scarlet red because quite frankly, I don't find the reds in that set to be all that vibrant, and the scarlet is a nice neutral, slightly warm, but really quite neutral red. And if I look at that next to, or here, this will be better. I mean, that cad red is quite, it's cad red light. Oh my gosh, cad red light. It's quite orange. So I think having that scarlet would be really nice. So I'm going to do Indian yellow, scarlet, and probably burnt sienna because the sepia is this, I don't know, actually the burnt umber is kind of in between the burnt sienna and the sepia. So definitely, I don't know. Then again, burnt umber is a single pigment. I might do both of them, to be honest. I'm not sure. Having 3 browns is kind of overkill. Sepia is never a color I use that much, so maybe I should just ditch sepia and put phthalo green in. I'm not sure, but for sure I'm going to have the Indian yellow and the scarlet red in there. I don't like the ultramarine very much that I have in a tube. And the set of 12 tubes here, that was sent to me from Schminke many years ago, back when I was first starting to review products. Then again, the Helios Cerulean would be nice because that's like a phthalo, kind of a nice phthalo blue, PB15:3. It'd just be a little bit more vibrant than the Prussian. I don't know. I wish I could fit them all, but then again, you know, I put the cobalt blue deep in my super granulating palette that I made. I don't know, I really feel like I need the warm yellow and the brighter red and a richer brown. But yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna add to it. And I'm just gonna, and I can fit them in the because I have my Schminke colors in here. I have Academy and I have some of the tube paints. And honestly, the weird thing is I find that the colors I swatched here that were from the Academy line, which is their student grade line, and the their tube artist colors to be stronger. And I don't know why that would be, because these are liquid filled, so I don't know why they seem so much weaker and so much less luminous. I've used several different kinds of paper, so I'm not sure. Like these two charts, these are on Hahnemühle Cezanne, which is a vegetable-sized 100% cotton paper. These two are on Arches, or Arche watercolor paper. It's a sketchbook my friend Rosie made. And I have a critique club member that was asking for a carnation bouquet, so that's why I was kind of doodling around with that. And then this is Stillman & Byrne mixed media paper, which I actually thought the mixed media paper kind of looked the best. I'm kind of going back through and trying to use the back sides of some of these paintings. I actually think I like the mixed media paper with this paint, to be honest. But I found the use of this palette to be really enjoyable, and I found this cup to actually be useful and adequate for cleaning off my brush. So maybe it's because these colors don't tend to really take onto your brush. They don't tend to release easily or as easily as other paints. I didn't pre-spray anything, because if I am using this out in the field, I'm going to have this in my pocket and I'm just going to pull it out with my and pour some water in here and go. So I wanted it to be as realistic as possible. I have already got some little divots though in the paint, so obviously the paint's coming out. But yeah, it does seem like the color payoff on this is not the best ever. So I do want to put that out there. But that said, people love Schminke paints. I really enjoyed using them. So even though my swatches aren't exciting, they don't look like, wow, there's a lot of color there. Like, look at this. This is like Supervision. I just swatched this out the other day. And if I compare that, the Supervision colors look so much more bold and bright, and they're a cheaper paint. So, I mean, maybe that could be the fact that so many paints now use color enhancers, and Schminke is more tried and true, more of a classic formulation. I don't know. My swatches from tubes here, though, in the Schminke line seem much more robust and bright. I don't know. There's variables, and that's on Canson Montville. So that's like, maybe the Schminke paints are just nicer on cellulose paper. That could be it, because it seems like I'm enjoying what I've done on the cellulose paper more than on the cotton paper with these paints. But I don't know. In any event, let's talk about the cons. I talked about the color payoff, the cons there. These paints are subtle. I'm just looking back at this, which is on cotton paper. This, the little color wheels we did yesterday. I still think the paint's lovely, though. I mean, the colors just are more natural and subtle, I think. And I don't think you're going to be out planing in plein air and overwork a painting by layering up and layering up and layering up. You're not going to get chalky and muddy, which you can get with like student grade paints or some other paints. So, I mean, I just think they're more of a traditional formulation. Like when I paint with Winsor & Newton paints, after I've been painting with like M. Graham or Core or other more modern watercolors, I feel like the Winsor & Newtons feel a little like just kind of like a lower color payout, like a just a little duller. But like using Winsor & Newton after using like Winsor & Newton Cotman paints, the professional paints feel so much nicer. I just think it's a formulation of a traditional line of paints versus a more modern line of paints. And also the colors chosen, like a Prussian blue, that's going to be much more muted than a phthalo blue. Sepia is a very muted color. I don't like sepia that much. It just feels very, very dead to me. Versus like a burnt umber or a burnt sienna. Like a burnt sienna is a lot more lively because it's got those red undertones. So it just kind of does jump out at you, where sepia is just seems very dull to me. The yellow ochre, I think, is the strongest color in this. Like as far as mixing, the yellow ochre wants to overtake the other colors really easily in this set. And I'm used to like phthalo blue overtaking stuff, and this got a Prussian instead of a phthalo. So and one other thing I've noticed with Schminke paints, if you're not buying the super granulating paints, is that their paints are very finely milled. And that's kind of also the more traditional way to do watercolors. If you paint with Sennelier or Winsor Newton artists or Schminke, those paints just feel, and even like the old formulation of Lucas, it just feels much more, which was made in Germany, it feels much more subtle, I guess. And that's kind of like the European watercolors, I feel like, have that kind of subtlety to them. You're not going to have an overabundance of oxgall or binder. It's just going to be enough. You're just going to have enough in there to make the paint adhere, to make the paint flow, but you're not going to get crazy flow or crazy granulation or crazy vibrant in your face colors. You're not going to get enhanced colors, boosted colors. It's just very traditional. And I think if you're used to more modern colors, or even a lot of the new Chinese colors that are kind of coming out cheap and cheerful and really, really bright, which I like those too. These might feel a little disappointing. And, you know, when you're paying $83 for a set of 8 colors, you know, you're mostly paying for the palette in this one, I think, but I just don't want anyone to buy this and be disappointed in the color payoff. Another con here is that the cap, now, like when you put the cap on, it's the hook, the part with a little clip on it is going to go to the back of the palette, and you're just gently going to set it on. There are little, can you see those little divots there? If I catch it to the light, can you see those little bumps that are next to the feet? There's corresponding little dimples in the cap, and that's just going to set on there and just gently hold it. But if you're rough, if you throw this in a backpack, I mean, that's going to come off. It's going to be really easy. If you're jamming this in your jeans pocket and your jeans are a little snug, or your pockets are a little small, you could easily lose that cap. And that would be such a bummer, because that's kind of the whole, the best part about this palette is having that little cap. I'm hoping that the enamel stays good on this. I mean, look at that. It's really nice. Yeah, you definitely want to have that on that end. And that's the beauty of it. You could go over the, not really, you really want it on this end where it's going to be nice and tight. And that's the beauty of it. If you lost that, that would be a bummer. I think you can buy just the caps, because, I mean, I could see them getting lost pretty easily. When I took this out this morning, I was cool enough to wear a jacket, so I had this in my inside jacket pocket. So I didn't have to worry about losing it, but, you know, it almost just places on there. It's barely held on there, and, I mean, I wouldn't want to see anyone lose track of that, because it would be a real bummer. It's really a sweet little thing. You might want to take an elastic and put it around it. And I'm sure that it's not tightly fitting, because you don't want to scratch up the enamel, especially on this water pot, because it's holding the water. Now, this does not feel sharp, which is nice. Nothing in this palette felt sharp to me. Like even the edges, I think they've taken the enamel all the way around the edge, because to prevent rust, because nothing feels sharp here, but it's not like a rolled edge. And that's one complaint that I've had with Schminke palettes in the past, is that their palettes can be razor sharp. Like if I look at this one right here, the edge, I had to file down the edges here because it was so sharp, and there was like a tray that fit in here, and this came with Academy paints in it. And it came with 12 paints and a little tray that you could pull out. The tray was so sharp, it's like Academy paints are meant for beginners and students. I can't imagine handing that to a child, because they could cut themselves. So I feel like the Whisky Painter's Schminke palette is better made. Not that this is bad made, it's just that the sharp edges were really concerning to me. So I did file them down with like a nail file, but then again, that might let it want to rust a little easier. So just some things to think about. Their Academy paints are really nice too. If you're looking for if you live in Europe and you're looking for a budget student paint, their paints are, and the other thing is Schminke paints are kind of expensive in my opinion in America. I didn't think it was I didn't think $83 was a horrible deal for this. I thought it was, you know, like I mentioned, people have collections. Some people collect thimbles, some people collect pottery, some people collect depression glass. I collect travel watercolor palettes, and this has been the unicorn. I've wanted this for so long, and I splurged on it, so I'm happy I bought it, and I like it. I like that it's got a nice brass cover and little nut in there. It does seem to have some sort of, I can't really feel what it is, but it feels like maybe a little styrofoam or plastic or something in there to make it seal up. The brass shouldn't rust, which is nice. It is the one thing that I've noticed is kind of tricky to get the water out. I don't know if I have any water in there right now. You kind of have to shake it. Sometimes it'll pour, like when I filled it with my little flavor enhancer bottle here, I find that the water came out a little easier, but when I filled it with my tap, I don't know if it like created a vacuum or what, but it was harder to pour out after I did that. Let me see. Now you got to kind of shake it out. So it's kind of, that is kind of a little bit of a drag, so that might bother you. I've got some sludge in there. I think it's from my, my tap upstairs, my hard water or whatnot, and I can see it in the black. But, you know, that's something to consider. You know, you got to kind of shake that out. So if you were in the middle of painting and you want to dump your water and you want to shake more water in there and you've got a juicy palette full of paint, I mean, you might have to wipe that off first, but I mean, I don't think that's that big of a deal, but I thought I'd mention it because it is an investment. It's an expensive product, and I just didn't want, I want you to have all the information that you might need if you're considering buying this. Of course, you could buy an empty version of this palette and put in whatever you want. I know Cheap Joe's has, I don't know if it's a Whiskey Painter's brand, but it's called the Flask palette, and it's very similar. And I've seen the Whiskey Painter's palette for, I think, about as much, or if not more, than the Schminke branded one. So I just go ahead and get this because it's a nice assortment of colors, and I found that I could pretty much mix what I wanted to. And these are just 2-color mixes, but I didn't really have any issues mixing colors when I was out, but I am going to add some in there just to, you know, just to take advantage of this space and do that. But there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. I mean, I could go to other brands, but then again, I'm really liking how my water doesn't get too corrupted while I am out mixing and painting and whatnot. I like it. I'm happy I bought it. I can't say it's for everyone. I don't think this is probably the best palette for you to start off with as a beginner. I like the color selection is fine. It's good for mixing. But I just think like this is a tiny little mixing space. It's not going to be your one and only palette. It's but it's a fun travel one, and the times that I want to bring out the bigger portable painter, I know I'm not going to be painting for a long time, I just want to stick something in my pocket and go, this is probably what I'll take, because it's cute, I like it, it's fun, and I'm glad I bought it. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear it, and until next time, happy crafting. Postscript, I just wanted to show you, I did decide on the colors that I was going to put in this palette. I just took them right out of here, and I'm going to leave the voids on that palette so I can either put it back at some point or switch them around or refill if I want to. So the colors that I put in here are Phthalo Green, Indian Yellow, Scarlet Red, and Burnt Umber. And then I will fill out the little swatch card here. And yeah, I think that'll be nice. I just gotta go this way. And yeah, I think that's going to work out pretty good. I'm wondering how a water brush might work here. So, do you guys want to do that with me? We could do that, right? Let me just grab a water brush. I'll just take any old one. That's a pretty small one, but it'll be fine. Got to fill it up though. Can't believe I don't have a full water brush. It's because I was just vacationing and I had my Derwents were full, but I took them with me. Okay. We're just going to fill this up. And I can use that. I can use that to clean my brush off as need be. So here is our olive. You know what? I'll try to, with the water brush, I think I could do a nice gradient. I could start really dark up here. You need a paper towel. Oh, let's just clip that right on the end. Hopefully that will still fit with our... Oh, you know what? I need to, when you do this, make sure your clips are scooched down far enough. There we go. Yeah, this will be a good grouping of colors too, I think. This probably, well, you guys are probably gone by now. So if I want to, I can go a little bit more intense on the top if I want to, let it kind of fade down. I think I'm definitely more of like a modern watercolor person because, I don't know, there's something about like just the vibrancy and the flow of core, the vibrancy of M-gram. It's probably also, I'm more used to those paints. I remember I bought the Winsor Newton set of 24. That was a great deal on Amazon a few years ago, and I liked them. And the artwork, I really liked the artwork that I did with them. But as far as like swatching them out, I was just kind of like, I was kind of just disappointed because it was like, look, well, you know what? I haven't used these pans that I made out of tubes in over a year, and I feel like they're more vibrant. They're, If you guys know if Schminke has changed their paints, or if that's just the difference between the tube recently, I don't know. But then again, they were fine to work with. I mean, look how bright that scarlet is, and that was just like, those have been sitting dormant. I could definitely use to top these off, but I'm gonna wait to see what I think. This is not a great, like, I think this is just cellulose swatch card paper too. And these are Horadam, not Academy. I did check the package. I mean, yeah, to look at the swatch sheet, it's like, it doesn't seem like anything to write home about. But that's why I say you can't really tell from the swatches. You gotta paint some paintings with it. Sometimes the swatches look great and you're like, oh, I'm so excited, like the Mungio paints. Swatching them out, I was so excited to paint with them. I'm like, these are great, the flow is awesome, they're so fun. But you couldn't glaze, you layer, everything would lift up below it. It was kind of get like chalky if you started to glaze, and it was kind of frustrating to work with, even though like swatching them out, they were so pretty, you know. So you just never know until you actually use them. But in any event, I'm happy with it. But I could see how the hype of Schminke, which I think makes good paint, their super granulating paints are awesome. If you're used to super granulating, you might be nonplussed about these, because you'll be like, well, this is kind of like this doesn't wow me like those other paints did. So I just want to make sure that you know what you're getting into if you're considering buying something, because it's not cheap. You know, it's not cheap, and I mean, I've wanted this palette for so long. I'm tickled by it, I gotta say. I'm so tickled by this absolutely adorable palette. But I don't want to let my biases steer you down the wrong path. If that's, you know, if those other cons are enough. I don't feel like adding those pans really added a lot of weight to it either. So, of course, I've dumped out all the water, so that could be a part of it. It's a neat little thing. I like it. It's so nice with my little, I'm gonna have to buy a new one of these. I'm almost out of pages, and I think I probably will be by the end of World Watercolor Month. And I've been working on this since 2018, so I've been working on this for almost, for like 4 years. So it'll be fun to finish that off and look at all the artwork in there. Anyway, that's it for real. Talk to you later. Happy crafting.